Hey friends, welcome back. Good morning to the Legend Fiction live stream. I'm your host, Dominic, founder of Legend Fiction. Good to be with you. How are you doing? You getting any writing in? For those who have never heard of our brand, for those who don't know what Legend Fiction is about, we are an epic fiction writing community, mostly sci-fi and fantasy, but man, we love any kind of fiction. We'll take anybody, especially those who are faith-inspired in the sense that you are moved to create something absolutely wonderful and exciting, and it's not just a job, it's not just a hobby, it's something that feels really meaningful for you, because it's exactly how I am. So I went and created the community that I wished existed when I was young, when I was a kid, and my goodness, it's still a micro community. We've been slowly growing, chipping away at it, growing for the last couple of years, and our goal is to help you start and finish your dream novel. There are a lot of people out there. You know, there's so much content, and there's still so many people who have no idea how to begin their novel. And then if they do, they're afraid that they won't be able to continue. They don't know how they're going to market it and publish it and sell it and find their readers. And so, hey, we have Gabi joining us. Hi, Gabi.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good. I was just giving a spiel to the 3 people watching, joining us early on the live stream. But yeah, we're Legend Fiction is a community, you know, founded with epic people like Gabi to create a place where authors can write and get their dream novels started and then finished. And then we have a marketing mastermind to help them market and get their book out and not feel alone while they're doing it. And then for the authors who are like, dang it, I just want to get this thing done, I don't know what to do, we have epic people like Gabi who can walk you through a 12-month program to get your novel finished. And if it's good, we'll even help you publish it by the end. We need to write down that promise because it's a pretty good one. Goodness, what else? We have so much going on. We're in the middle of a brand new season.
Yeah,
in our challenge. Yeah, challenge in our community. Season of the Tree Warden. So every 3 months we have a new season, and that comes with a new legend pass of bonus gifts to help you level up your writing. And there's a tournament that we run, and the goal is to build up your word counts and earn badges and participate in a writing challenge, a flash fiction challenge that we run every quarter. So it's very fun. Okay, here's the schedule for today, and I'm just going to tweak the layout a little bit so that we can fill the screen better. There we go. All right. So schedule for today, because we actually have Gabi. We're talking about outlining versus pantsing. You are privy to a live recording. This is going to be a lesson produced for our creative writing school, hosted by Gabi, where, as I said, authors get to join. It's a 12-month program. You get 3 lessons per month, and then you get the chance to email in a chunk of your writing progress to Gabi. She reads it and gives you feedback already. That's amazing. She will also create for you a 12-month program to help you achieve your goal of either writing a story a month and turning that into your own anthology, or finishing a novel within a year, so that you have something that's either just done or something that you can publish. And then every month we're tackling the essentials of understanding good storification. And then you get a week off if you want to either binge the rest because you weren't doing anything, or to take a time off to just have fun and watch a movie or something like that. So we think it's a pretty awesome program. So we're going to get into that recording, and then we have 2 guests. Gabi, you have to bounce at 10:45, so I'll try to cut a little earlier than that to give you some breathing room. I'll then probably read through like a recording of a second lesson on dreaming, because I've been wanting to just read through that stuff and get those neat little videos, put that in the legend guide inside our community. And then we have 2 guest authors, Shawn Reuter. I think that's how you say it. He's self-published his own novel. I think he's a member of our community.
Nice.
So that's pretty awesome to talk with somebody who's just gone out and done it. Good for you, Shawn. And we have he's now become one of our more active members, Joel Balkovec. He runs an editing company. He loves helping people with D&D, and he hosts a Stories Live session. And so, bit of a rising star. It's going to be fun to spend time with him. So, how was your week?
It was good. It was very, very good. It was packed because I was doing the last touches, meaning proofreading the entire thing for the book that's going to be publishing on when's the 20th? Monday.
Nice.
Monday.
Yeah.
So it's done. I was up.
This is ending, or is this the short story collection novella thing?
Ending is going to come out late September. This one's the novella. It's the Romantasy novella. Regency, kind of like, Arcane meets Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies is the best way that I can
Yeah, that's
describe
great.
that one.
Uh-huh.
So that one's coming out on Monday. Just finished the proofread. Ebook's still giving me trouble, but that's okay because I'm much better. So the only trouble now is that the pictures are a little to the left. All the words are there though, so I'm
Ah,
happy with it.
okay. What tool are you using to lay it out, or is somebody else doing it?
InDesign.
Are you doing InDesign? Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
InDesign, I know that there are so many, like, easier ways to do it. So, like, I know that there's Reedsy, which I do use a lot. Reedsy editor,
Hmm.
I use that one a lot. And I know there's Atticus, but here's the thing,
Hmm.
I really, really like the kind of customizable way that my book can turn out when I use
Hmm.
InDesign.
Hmm.
And then I don't want to repeat the process for the ebook, so I just kind of like fiddle with it. And if I have an emergency, I'll use Reedsy, and it's perfectly good. It's just
Hmm.
I like the way that it feels to be able to design it myself my own way and
Hmm.
then publish it as a reflowable EPUB.
Goodness. Well, you're a glutton for punishment. I
A
live
little
in
bit.
design. I design a magazine every 3 months for my day job, and so
Yeah.
it's like I get hives walking up to it, and then I blast through it in 2 days. Okay, so let's get into our lesson for the creative writing school. So let's pretend to be all official here. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Creative Writing School. I'm the founder, Dominic, and your host is Gabi Batel. Today we're talking about outlining versus pantsing. What works for you? But first, what is it? Why are we talking about this, Gabi?
So, when you're getting ready to actually start drafting your book, the bookish community has kind of divided it into two different methods. One are the plotters, who they write an outline for the rest of their book. They know exactly where it's going, and then they type out what the outline says. I mostly fall into this category. One time I wrote an outline that was 84 pages long because I didn't just have the story beats, I actually had then
That's
the
basically the novel right there.
I don't recommend that little bit. But yes, that's just to give you an idea of how like specific my brain
Mhm.
wants to be when it comes to these
Yeah.
outlines. And then there are the pantsers, or people who write by the seat of their pants. That is, they sit down and they're like, I'm gonna write today. And by some miraculous method that I have yet to be able to imitate, they sit down and they write and they come up with new ideas and they let the story just kind of approach them as they are approaching it. Now, there are pros and cons to both of these, and honestly, at the end of the day, it's what is your preference? What works better for you? I just told you I'm mostly a plotter, but I find that there are elements of pantsing that I also like too. So it's not like you have to fall into one category or the other, and you can't slip and slide between, or try one and try the other, or take elements of both. Just at the end of the day, it's whatever you prefer, what works best for you, what gets your creativity flowing, and what makes it easiest for you.
Hmm.
That said, I think that there are some great elements of both of them and some great tips and tricks outside of both of them that can really help make this process the most effective, whether you are a plotter, whether you are a pantser. First of which being, do not write an 84-page outline. Just want to throw that out
Yeah.
there.
So, okay, let's steel man both of them. So, what are all the strengths and the weaknesses of one, and then we'll do the other. So, let's start with plotting. It's what everybody hears. It's plot this, plotter that. It's like everything's named plot, whatever. Nobody creates a writing software called Pants This Up because that just sounds like weird. Or that book, Take Off Your Pants. It's like, excuse me now, hold on. It's a great book, but it's like that title just, I hate saying it out loud half the time.
Like, hang on a
So let's
second.
talk about plotting. And like you said, it's so easy. It's to go overboard. It's one of the first things that we hear because, well, we're writing a plot, aren't we? I'm not writing a pants. So it's a very sensible sounding word, but as you said, you can go overboard, that we both have. What are all the good reasons why people plot really intensely, or why it's good to plot as opposed to just getting in the airplane and finding out what happens before you've built the wings and you're building it on the way down and you don't know where you end up or something? I'm making a caricature, but whatever. So let's start with plotting. Let's steelman this thing. Why is it a good idea to know as much as possible?
The first thing I would say is that it's really, really helpful to have a modicum of organization to whatever you're doing, because our last lesson was talking about how just chaotic the writing process is, and it still will be even when you plot. But I myself, and I know a lot of other writers, find some comfort in having a game plan, having a little bit of organization to go with that. As well, it helps you really see the bigger picture, and you can see the story beats that you need to hit, the hero's journey. It's a lot easier to see that when they're 12 bullet points instead of 1,200 pages or however much you might be writing your
Mhm.
first draft. So seeing all that really can help you to plan out a stronger story without necessarily having to go back and do so much rewriting because you already knew, okay, I was going to do this, this was going to fulfill this purpose, this was going to fulfill that purpose, and it was going to lead to that. It also can help you with foreshadowing and with making sure that all the pieces connect together really well on the first go. When you're plotting, you're like, okay, I need to get here. I have this ending, and she's going to use, I don't know, the silver wand. Well, if you're pantsing, you might not know about the silver wand yet. So you really have no method of setting it up. Whereas when you're plotting, you're like, okay, silver one, got to set this up here, got to explain this there, etc., etc., etc. Those are, I would say, the main pros of plotting. And then as for the pros of pantsing, plenty of those too. So the creativity can just soar with pantsing. With plotting, there can be an element of, say, rigidity and just like, oh, I wrote the outline, I know how to write an outline, and now I'm only going to go with this. And it can get, I don't want to say formulaic necessarily because your
Well, it feels like a
outline.
business plan for some people.
Exactly, exactly. So it's really nice to be able to have that freedom with pantsing. It forces you to really open your mind and consider what else could happen. What if this didn't happen? Plotters might be like, okay, well, the plot says this next thing has to happen, but pantsers are like, what if it was different? And then that can open up new story ideas. You might find little accidental kind of foreshadowings. I know that's what Matt Dinniman, who and not this exactly, but the concept. Matt Dinniman, who writes the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, he says that when he needs to write a new book, he just goes back to his older books and keeps an Excel sheet of all the unanswered questions and
Oh,
is
that's
like,
awesome.
"Oh, I didn't answer that. There we go. I'm going to put that into the next book." So you
Wow.
might find that you can do that when you're pantsing. You're like, "Oh,
Mhm.
there's this little element that I hadn't really thought of. Okay, this goes somewhere interesting that you might not get when you're plotting." So if I were to kind of
Yeah, it's like the
boil
author
those
goes, "So
down.
everybody, you remember that plot hole, the foreshadowing from the first book? Well, here we go.
Exactly, I didn't forget. No, 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 it was just biding its time.
Oh, ye of little faith."
So if I were to boil down the pros and cons into just one word a piece for each, it would be that for plotting, it's kind of organization and ease, and then
Mhm.
for pantsing, it's creativity and unexpectedness.
Mm. Okay, very cool. Let me run through what goes through my mind because I've tried both, trying to figure out, like, what is my style? And, uh, on the one hand, so the people you'll often see these seem like the quintessential, writers. They seem to do really well on Instagram and, maybe YouTube or something where they sit down, they start writing, and you see behind them, there's, like, walls of sticky notes. It's all color-coded sticky notes and red lines between them. They're like that guy from, what is it, Sunny in Philadelphia going, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and everything is just neatly connected. Now, it can be brilliant to do that because, yeah, then you won't be surprised by anything, and you can
Mhm.
create what you planned to create. Now, if you go join a uh, professional film company, like Industrial Light and Magic, Pixar, whatever, once they've ideated the story, they will absolutely go and do that and storyboard
Mhm.
every single minute because you literally have to put a lot of money and time into every single thing. Um, you as an author might be like, "Well, it takes a lot of effort to write 1,000 words. I'm the kind of person I can do 300 words a day. I am a predictable, you know, slow. I make slow, steady progress, and the
Methodical.
idea of having to like rewrite 10,000 words worth of a novel is like can't do that's unacceptable. This is such an absolute waste of my life. It's a waste of time. I'm not going to do that. So those kinds of people have a very good reason to plot it all out and to be very methodical. It can also give you a great sense of um, comfort and confidence in that you know where it's going to end up. Because as anybody who gets into writing knows, something weird happens
Mhm.
once you start having a family. It's just what a novel is. You have a family, nobody listens to you or really wants to. Now you can force them and sort of create, keep closing the doors in the maze to get the rat to go after the one dang place you want it to go. You can do that, and that's what often a lot of stories are. Um, but there's something magical that happens is another conversation about how, as God imagines us, we imagine characters, but obviously we don't have the infinite creative power, itty bitty living space. So things don't actually totally live independently or have free will and whatever, but they sure feel like they do because they're
Mhm.
borrowing it from us and it's like a partition of us, you know? And so you're kind of you're role playing or you're method acting inside your story.
I may have
Uh
told this joke before, but,
yeah.
there's a joke in the book community about, like, if you were locked in a room with your characters who know what you did to them, and I'm like, "I didn't do nothing to them. They made their own messes. I just wrote it down."
There you go. That's exactly how it should be. Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, if you would be afraid of your characters, this is a problem.
Right.
Um,
It's their own hot
so
messes.
anybody who gets into writing over, once you get past being a beginner, you begin to realize that um, stuff keeps wanting to happen. You get halfway through and you get new ideas. And so one way that
Yeah.
people could start to get control of that, because otherwise, if you keep having new ideas, the story never gets finished. So
Mhm.
having a
And then you never
really
stop.
good plotting session can be really smart. Also, it gives you something very concrete to share with somebody else, like an agent, your brainstorming partner, a
Mhm.
friend, yourself in the future who has no idea what you were thinking 3 weeks ago, 3 months ago. Okay. So plotting has fantastic things. It also means you can follow formulas really well, or you can like throw stuff up on a board really quickly. Like, for example, I love things like Trello boards, whoops, with cards and whatever, and you can drag and drop these around. It's easy to reorder ideas very quickly, again, without feeling like you're losing yourself. Um, darn, I forgot where I was going with that. Um, you can color code things, which is awesome. But in following formulas, you can drop things into a formula, something that's very predictable, and then you can decide where you want to change things or what you want to drop. Okay. On the other side, right? Pantsing. Um, Pantsing is for it's not just for those the brave and the bold. It's for somebody who has. I think it's for the kind of people who have more of a sense of confidence into basically it's like whitewater rafting. It's like, "I
Mhm.
trust me, I'm gonna get through this thing. I can ideate
Yeah.
myself. You throw me and my family, we're gonna airdrop into Hunger Games, and we're all gonna survive because I've just got it in me to do this," right? It's just a different mentality on how to
It
solve
really
problems.
is.
Um, so
And
you'll
there has to be this confidence too in your own, like, creativity in your own trying new things because, my issue that I come up against is that when I outline, there is this kind of, I'm not committing to the bit yet, I'm writing down notes, I think this is what's gonna happen, it's nice and orderly. When I sit down and I have no idea where I'm going, I don't even know what to do, I don't know how to be creative at that point.
yeah.
I'm like, "Okay, well, yes, I could, I suppose, have a meteor hit, but that doesn't feel very inspired or like the story or like the next thing that should happen." So
Mhm.
there is like this confidence in, "Oh, yeah, here would be a great next step,"
Mhm.
that people who pants have.
Yeah, yeah. There's that meme. I don't know what cartoon it's from or anime it's from, but it shows the guy going like this, looking at the butterfly,
A butterfly.
a and then it has the butterfly has, like, Spotify soundtrack on it. It's like, "Oh, is this my new novel?" Right? You
Yes.
start with a very strong sense of character, place, location, and you just don't wanna do anything. You just wanna get into writing it, and that's an awesome place to start. I don't know of many, and I just haven't researched enough, professional published authors who pants their way through everything, like, from the get-go. Um,
I don't
it's a
know of any off the
fantastic
top of my head. I do remember a story of a guy who is a professionally published author, and he's like a thriller writer, and
yeah.
he would pants it from beginning to end. I wish I could remember his name. But
I
the problem with
suspect that
that is that
go
he
ahead.
had some unfinished manuscript because he didn't know ever how to end the book sometimes. He was like,
Yeah,
"Oh, well, I wrote it. Who done it? I don't know. I don't
yeah.
know who did it."
I'm still having fun with this. I think that not we'll get to the middle ground in a minute, I'll tee it back over to you. But, I think that for a lot of people who are pantsers, um, it's not how do I say this? It's something that you can do once you've internalized the destination. Once you know there's specific beats, right? Um, you then don't have to do all the plotting and stuff, especially if you don't plan to share it with anybody. You're just gonna get into it. You wanna ride the high. It's a bit like riding a bike. Or it's a bit like somebody who's never traveled across country before, road trip, right? You have a very clear map. You're using Google Maps to get you there. Well, somebody who's like, if I just keep going east, you know, wait, no, that's the ocean. If I keep going west, I'll end up somewhere, different. But I know the outline of the country. I know how roads work. You know, I've got a sense of how to start and stop, how to keep my car going. And so you know the mechanics that are going to help you go on this adventure. And somebody who is pantsing is probably someone who has spent a lot of time thinking and understanding the formulas and
Yep.
ingesting them, maybe practicing with them. And then they realize, I don't need all of this stuff. You just give me and a white wall or a white piece of paper and I can just go. Now, what I've just described right there is still a bit different to like literal pantsing. And the I think it maybe it's just my take, and friends, if you wanna disagree, you are welcome to explore and disagree, but straight up literal pantsing can take much longer
Mhm.
because you don't know where you're going, you don't know
Yep.
what's a rabbit hole or a red herring versus the actual, destination where you wanna go. Stories routinely have to follow clear
Mhm.
emotional beats,
Yes.
clear call them formulaic story points so that it lands as a story, and you're not putting your climax in the middle and then having 500 pages of wind down, which everyone's like, "When is this over?" The goal of any story is to keep people reading and to give them an experience that they're going to hopefully love and wanna buy from you and come back and read your next one. So it's really hard to describe pantsing because it's like, there's no rules. You do what you want. And you like just keep outwriting yourself from problems. And then you just keep trying to find where the middle is and you just keep writing. Downsides is you can end up doing a lot of creating. So there's pros and there's downsides to both. One is like strike while the iron's hot. You can make a lot of progress because you're going with where the energy is. The downsides is, as we routinely know in life, if you only ever do what's fun, the moment you hit something hard that you have not prepared for, which is what planning is, uh, you will run aground and not finish, like you just said, because you've no idea what you were trying to do in the first place. So let's talk about sort of the middle road, which is a spectrum of stuff. And you and I both have sort of landed in there.
Yes.
Um, let's talk about that.
I actually would recommend the middle ground. Even if you think I am a hardcore plotter, okay, great. Lean a little bit, just a little bit into pantsing, or I only do pantsing. All right, well, then let's think a little bit like a plotter. The reason why is because, like you and I just discussed, they both have pros and cons. And why would you stick with one when you could have the best of both worlds? So, in my particular case, as an example, I still write outlines. I don't write 84-page outlines anymore. Now they're more like 11 pages. That's very manageable. But when I'm writing, if I come to a scene and I'm like, man, this is what's next in the outline, but it just doesn't feel like it flows. It feels like there needs to be something different here. Okay, we roll with that. And then we guide ourselves back to the next major story beat. That's what I do. Or if I'm going and I just kind of like come up with something in the middle of a scene. I'm like, oh, that element is kind of cool. I hadn't planned for that in the plot. All right, let's keep that. Let's work with that as we follow the plot. That kind of a thing. You don't have to do that exactly. Again, you find out what works for you. If you're a pantser, let's say you're writing, okay, try and keep your story beats in mind. Like you just said, all right, well, I know I'm at the beginning, so I got to start out with the ordinary world. Something's just a little bit awry. Nothing has exploded yet. What am I going to do? All right, I'm exploring the world. I'm getting to know this person. You're keeping that in mind. That's plotting as you're going. All right, I'm getting close to the middle. You know what? I think there needs to be a midpoint. I haven't really been seeing a climax coming. All right, let's see if I can actually work up to that. There's got to be that middle climax. Doing that, keeping it in mind, is going to save you from a whole lot of trouble later when you're going back and looking at your work and you're like, oh wait, I need the plot points of the hero's journey. Well, you've already done that. That's why I think a mix of both of the worlds is really, really helpful. The organization and the creativity, the freedom and the guidance, both of those together, it's really going to wind up, I believe, making literally everybody's writing process much more enjoyable and effective. I don't usually give like across the board guidance. And for this one, there's still a lot of leeway in it. But if you're going to take some across the board guidance from me, it's going to be this: do a little bit of a mix. Take your
Mhm.
favorite, lean on that. That's great. But see if you can be open to incorporating the other one. I don't think that will ever steer anybody wrong.
Yeah, yeah, and so if you're in the school, you will see that we have previous lessons that Gabby and I have recorded talking more specifically about the climax, the midpoint, opening scenes, stuff like that. Um, if you're not in the school and you go on YouTube, which is where you are, I have a deep dive that I've recorded about an hour that just goes through. It's like a workshop that I gave at the last Legend Haven, and it goes through the major things to think about. If you just got, hey, I've got a really cool novel, so you can just download this sheet, which is available on the blog. You can just download this and start filling it in. Well, here's my midpoint, here's my characters, here's the climax, and it gives you um, just these big story block moments to think about for pacing your story. Um, you can trim this, and I was gonna forgot what I was gonna say. Um, oh, so if you want those to go a little more deeper than what we're doing right now, you can do that. Um, I think a good example, like for me, is the most recent novel that I wrote. I started pantsing it pretty early on, and just took the main character, dropped her in the situation, and just started writing. But it's fair to say, in my head, I had a pretty clear sense of I know she's being dropped into a fantasy world, and the instant you start making any sorts of decisions, uh, like having a story. Like the instance you say, I'm telling you a story. That means there's a predictable framework to how a
Yep.
story works. It's got a beginning, middle, and end. It's about a person
Yeah.
who wants something bad enough to do something about it. It's like, oh, I hate formulas. Sorry. You want to drive a car?
I was
Learn the
gonna
formula for a
say.
car. Stories have a formula too because that's how humans like them. You leave out any one of these pieces, and people just like, I don't know, throw a tomato at it. Um, So the instance you say, "It's a story," okay, that means there's elements, predictable elements to it. If you're like, "Well, my character is this kind of person, and I want them to have an adventure," automatically there's a formula to that. And it's like if they're this kind of person, they're going to solve problems in this kind of way. And if they're going on this kind of adventure, like a hero's adventure, or if it's a romance or whatever the sort of genre that you're picking, there's a formula. The nice thing about knowing formulas is that you can then mix and match. You can choose what to leave in or out. But there are certain bedrock stuff that you can't ignore. If you're telling a heroic story, the hero has to be heroic, has to be likable, probably has to make a very difficult decision that will probably make everybody hate him at the end, probably has to either find a team or has to lose the team to learn to stand on their own,
Mhm.
stuff like that. Heroes do heroic stuff. Assassins do assassin stuff. I don't know that you necessarily want an assassin teaming up with the Avengers by the end because it's like,
Right.
well, the whole vibe of an assassin story is the lone wolf, in the shadows, stuff like that. So there's predictable formulas because there's predictable expectations that we want. So even if you're pantsing, you can just pants right into the process of writing because you've already learned all of this stuff. You've learned and you intuited the formulas. You've watched enough movies and read enough books to where you can just get right into it. Um, I do think it's helpful to drop down the plot points. And so maybe Gabby, we
Mhm.
can run through sort of your little process. Here's mine is I love something like a Trello board. I found it so easy just to think of. Create three columns. First act, second act, third act. Okay. Third act is probably going to be shorter. First act is probably going to be shorter. The middle act is going to be where all the fun and games and all the crazy stuff happens. First act is like from the beginning of the story through to the point of no return. Like,
Mhm.
that's it. We're on this adventure. I'm going on an adventure. Second part is where all the crazy stuff happens, and right in the middle of it is gonna be the big banging center of the story
Mhm.
thing. Not the climax, it's sort of the first sort of climax sort of thing, but
First,
it's a
yep.
big thing to save the soggy middle of like, "I hate my middle, it's so boring. They're just walking for 10 years across Middle Earth." And then the third column is we've done all the preparation, the roundup, the stealing, the team building, the whatever, the trekking. Now
We've
we're in
hit
the
the worst
climax.
moment.
Yeah, the whole point of this whole story was to get my character to this point. If you've got those 3 areas of a story in your head, I love that. You just create column 1, column 2, column 3, and then you start dropping ideas. And as you get ideas, you can drop them in here. And it's like, oh, this needs to come after this. And you can just drag and drop those cards around. I love how simple that is. And this says a few lines, a few sentences, you say as much as you want. And if you have even that, you are so far ahead of
Yep.
somebody who doesn't even do that. You can now
Exactly.
get into writing and then come back and refer to your columns and like,
Mhm.
let's get rid of this or let's tweak this. Nope, I need a new character here.
Mhm.
Um, and then I just keep editing mine as I keep going. And usually by the time I get halfway through the book, I don't even care about the cards or the columns anymore. And they become completely out of date because I'm like, I know where this thing is going. I'm good at this point. I don't need anything else. By the time you hit the middle, I'm just like, I'm just desperately trying to land
I
this
know, I
plane
just
and
wanna
wrap
get
it
to the
up.
end. Oh my goodness.
I don't need more ideas. I did all of that.
Yes.
All right. What do you do, Gabby? What's your go-to for organizing?
Very similar to that
Yeah.
is, like I said, usually I write an outline, and the way that I write my outline, this is
It's like a
my
Google Doc or something. It's
it
like
is a Google Doc. You can use whatever you want. You can use little sticky notes. I don't have the patience for sticky notes. I need something like right at my fingertips that doesn't like fall off the wall with glue and stuff. But you can do sticky notes. You can do pins and like flashcards. You can do what are they called? I'll call it flashcards. Flashcards that you pin up to a cork board. You can do a Word doc. You can do a whiteboard. Whatever you want. Just something to organize your thoughts. I happen to use a Google Doc, and this is my method that I think could be very, very helpful for all of our students out there. So, the first thing is exactly what you said. Just kind of note the story beats, whether you're plotting, whether you're pantsing. Always, as you're writing, just note down the story beats, math out, and we'll get to this in a second. Math out, okay, I'm halfway ish through the book, then okay, you should be having some rising action going to the first climax. If you're pantsing and you're like, this isn't going anywhere, how far am I in? Oh, looks like it's time for this. Let's ramp some stuff up. Or looks like I'm at the 3/4 mark. Something really, really bad should probably happen just about now, kind of a thing. Keep the story beats in mind as you're plotting. The way that I do it is I actually just literally write all 12 and then drop some story beats into it. Sometimes I'm like, huh, I actually don't have this scene. I don't know what goes into the rising action for the middle. I'm like, oh, well, okay, clearly I need to think about this a little bit more because this is an important part and I actually don't know what happens. So keep those in mind as you're plotting, keep those in mind as you're pantsing. The second piece of advice I want to give everybody, plotter, pantser, watch out for filler scenes. It's so easy when you're plotting, you're doing your little bullet points, you're like, "Okay, here's a scene," and you don't really know where it goes. It's just kind of there sitting stagnantly. Be careful of that. There's a little trick that I use and, well, actually, you know what? I don't know if I have used it, but I know that I recommend it to people because, an editor, like a professional famous editor, she's like, "Do this trick." She says, "Don't look at your plot, don't look at your outline, don't look at your cards, don't look at anything, and just take a couple days, it doesn't have to be immediate, take a couple days and try and remember all of the scenes you want to write. If you forget one, get rid of it. Because if
Hmm.
you can't remember it 2 days after you start this process of trying to remember, then it's probably because it doesn't connect to anything and it's probably just extra and you don't want it. So when you're writing, pants by the seat of your pants, you wanna, "Okay, I maybe don't know where this goes yet, but I need to make a note of it because this is a fun scene, but it's not really doing anything. I need to make a note of this and see how I can weave it in later." You got your little bullet point. Man, that's going to be a good scene. All right. How does it connect to other things? How does it push the story forward? Always remember the note that we've said before, which is it's not this happened and then this happened and then this happened. It's this happened because the previous thing happened, which in turn was caused by the previous thing that happened. When you're
Hmm.
plotting, it's not just bullet points, it's more like arrows. This happened, the character made this decision. This reaction caused this next decision moving forward. And then when you're pantsing, you're just writing, you're like, okay, the character did this. That was an unexpected scene. All right, what happened next? No. What does the character do that then causes a choice that then prompts the next scene? If you keep all of those in mind, you'll be as good as gold with your plot and with your pantsing. You're going to find that you spare yourself a lot of time, effort, and tears with trying to rewrite because you have already done the heavy lifting beforehand or as you were writing.
Hmm.
And the final note from my end that I want to leave you with, I find really helpful. It's
So I've
actually a
never
way.
done this, right? This is the math side, right?
Yes.
Yeah, all right.
Yep.
Tell me about this.
All right, here's how we're gonna math it out. This comes from books upon books of actually testing out how long scenes last, how many scenes need to happen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so, and actually, this is how I come up with your outline, not your outlines, your customized writing plans for the school.
Hmm.
I take, okay, this many number of scenes, this long book, this expectation, this da 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 da, and then I divide it by the number of days. Now, when I'm writing my books, it's less focused on how many words per day versus how many actual scenes should I put in it because sometimes you're like, well, okay, I have the core bits. Like I know what's going to happen, but How do I know how much to put between? How do I know what it takes to connect them all? I gotcha. Here we go. Okay, so for a fantasy novel, let me back up a little bit. I'm going to divide books real quick into the technical term of what I call things. Things that happen. And what I say when I say that, what I mean
Mhm.
is not necessarily individual scenes, because a thing in the way that I'm referring to it, and if you come up with a better way to describe it, please tell me. But a thing that happens is
Stuff.
the stuff. There you go.
Stuff happens.
Stuff happens. That can actually include several scenes. But what a thing is it's just a main central core story happening that is really easy to remember and summarize and is the main point of thrusting the story forward. Okay. So let me describe that in my latest novella, The Tempest in the Tiger's Eye. Okay. So there are a bunch of scenes in it. I'm sure there are like, I don't know, 20, something like that. Those aren't the things. What I mean is, here's how I could describe the book in a series of one-liners. Honestly, and this is just this is how I help myself divide it up. You can do something similar, but if you can start the sentence with that hot mess when, or that thing that happened when, break it up into that. See how your story goes. Okay, so for Tempest and Tiger's Eye, it's okay, that moment where she catches him on the wrong side of the river and they have to team up. That's actually a bunch of scenes, but I said it in one sentence, and that's the core of this big important part of what happens in the book. Okay. Then there's that hot mess where they go into the forest, they find the lagoon, and they find the guy. Then there's the hot mess with getting ready for the ball. Then, okay, that kind of a thing. Okay. So what I have found is if you can clump together those scenes into those core things, you can actually math out how many of those things you need to finish the book. So let's say you need a fantasy novel and you've Googled the norms. You're like, okay, about 100,000 words. It's epic fantasy. It's going to be part of a series. It's going to be about 100,000 words. That's what people are going to read. That's what publishers are going to publish. Okay. For fantasy, a thing that happens is about 10,000 words, give or take 8 to 10. So now okay, I need to be able to summarize my entire story in 8 to 10 sentences. That is how you can do it. And then from there, if you want to make it really easy on yourself, divide those up into the story beats. So let's say it's 10. I don't know if there's exactly 12 story beats, but you can be like, okay, well, in the first story beat, I probably need to hit the first 3. And then the next story beat is going to be the next 2. And you see, you can know how you can include the story beats inside those single core sentences that are going to describe the progress of your book. Now, for a non-fantasy novel, because with fantasy you need some extra words to kind of like give the world building, just to develop the world a little bit more. So that's going to be a little bit longer. For a thriller, for example, where it's just like Earth and you know what's going on. It doesn't require a whole lot of explanation. A thing is closer to like 6 to 7 words. Again, give or take. It's not super hard and fast. You can math it out that way. Now to go even smaller. Now let's go to the scenes. Those are the specific ones. I said a thing might include multiple scenes. All right. So I said, the whole hot mess with, he crosses the wrong side of the river and she catches him and they have to work together. Okay. Well, it's where she's getting ready to meet him. That's the first scene. Then when she actually does meet him, then she consults with her mother, then she strikes the deal. Okay. So that was like 4 little scenes inside of it. So if we're saying that a thing is 10,000 words, it actually turns out perfectly, because a scene usually, and this I would say is kind of across the board, not exactly, because with like a thriller, you might like split a scene up or kind of a thing. But in general, a scene is about 2,500 to 3,000 words, right? So you got 2 or 3 of those per thing, per beat, if you will, per core piece of the story that happens. Now you got a game plan. You see? So if you're like, I'm pretty stuck, I'm feeling that way a little bit with my newest novel that's not coming out anytime soon. It's the third book to Don't. I still have a lot of uh, plotting. I still have a lot of plotting to do with that. But I know, okay, well, I'm gonna cut myself a little slack because it's, the last of a trilogy. I can make it a little longer, but I don't want to be it to be too long for thriller norms. So I'm gonna set this at 90,000 words. 90,000 words kind of sounds like nine things. Actually, a little bit less than that because for it's 7,000 for just a thriller set in the modern world. So let's see, 90,000 divided by 7-ish. Oops, yeah. So like 12 or 13. So I know 12 or 13 things can happen. Okay, that sounds a lot to me like the number of story beats that are in a story. Not going to be exactly the same because of course, the fun and games is always going to last longer than say the beginning scenes, the inciting incident and the last straw, just those kind of things that just push your reader forward. Those are going to be clumped together. Those are going to be shorter. So I'm not going to one set out a scene per story beat. But it gives me kind of a good gauge. Okay, I know there need to be 13 things that happen, which means I should be able to express how my book lands in 13 sentences. Then I know that there's going to be like 2 to 3 different scenes per thing. So now I know 13 times, let's just say 2.5. 32, 33 scenes. And there I have it. I'm like, okay, now I know where we're going. 32 to 33 scenes. I can divide it up into the percentages that happen for the story beats. You remember I told you that the 50% mark is usually where the first climax happens, 70 to 80% mark is where the worst part happens, et cetera, et cetera. Then I have an outline and I know where to go. I know where not to include too much. I know where to tighten things up. I myself find this mathing out very helpful because it simplifies it for me. I think it could be really easy when you're writing an outline or when you're pantsing a novel to just feel like, oh my goodness, it's a book. It's so long. I have to include so much. And this here actually just kind of boils it down and says, no, can you think of 13 things to happen? Can you think of 13 things that lead from A to B? That's it. That's
And
what it's
then
going for.
can you do it in 1,500 word increments or
Exactly right.
3,000 word increments? And it's like, that's a chapter, maybe for each one of these. You
Exactly
chunk it through
right.
that way.
I've heard of the person who made the latest Mario movie. He says that he doesn't think so much about dividing it into story beats, which I recommend the story beats. But the point I'm getting to is to make it feel really manageable. He said instead of thinking of making like an entire story in 90 minutes, think, can you make 3 minutes and just do it 30 times?
Hmm.
That seems like a whole lot simpler. It's like, oh, 3 minutes, it's not even a thing. Oh, 1,500 words and just doing that about 30 times, that's not a thing. I could be done in 30 days if I wanted to.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. We got a cool comment in the chat. Anthony says, "Discovery writing doesn't have to be writing blindly. You work on the plot in your head, not on paper." I think that's true. I
Exactly
think that
right.
that's probably a bit different to the straight up actual real pantsers out there who are like, "Ooh, I've got a cool idea. Let me just find out where it goes. Let me just go have an adventure without a map." Um, Discovery writing, which is more what I do, is like, I've got a pretty good idea of where it's going to go.
Mhm.
I've got a clear sense of it, and already in my head, I've got center point, type of character, climax, and I can go on the adventure, but I've got a destination that I can write towards. So, like you say, having mathing out the total sort of word count, that instantly gives you floating guardrails to
Mhm.
meet. And then having like, well, I can do a 500 word a day. Well, then that gives you a timeline. Or if I can do 1,500 or 3,000 word chapter, which is kind of like what I like to do, then that gives you like again, a timeline, but you can also know, well, after, 3 opening chapters, I should be done with like the first section, that first
Mhm.
10%, that first 10,000. It can make it feel a lot more manageable. All right. Any final closing thoughts to leave with those who are like, well, I still don't know which one I should pick. What should I do? How should I start? What would you like to recommend?
I would recommend that first you do the math. You probably are wanting, thinking, feeling that you need to include way too many scenes And that
Which is
is
why any beginner author automatically wants to write a trilogy.
exactly right, exactly right, and that can be to your detriment. If you put too many scenes, then you're not giving the tender loving care and the attention to the scenes that you have, and that's what we want. We want quality over quantity. So start out with the math, and then with that, put your mind at ease. Just be like, "Okay, I can do this thing." And then you think to yourself, you might not even know what's happening yet. That's why I'm saying, just like pick your genre, pick the length of your book, and divide it up a little bit. Okay. Then take a look. And you're like,
Which, by
okay,
the way, is exactly how Gabby runs the creative writing school. It helps you
that
to
is
do that.
exactly what I do. That's exactly what I do, how I help you come up with your personalized writing plans. Because then I take that number and then I also divide it by the number of days that, I can recommend to you to be writing so that you have a novel done by the end of the year. So take a look at those 13, whatever the case may be, story beats, and take a breath of fresh air and be like, okay, I can do this. You start with that. Then you're like, I don't know whether to plot or whether to pants. Okay, start wherever you know. Okay. If you know, okay, I have no idea where anything else is going, but I have one scene in mind and I know that I want, okay, write that. Then maybe come back and say, okay, well, like what could happen before that? What could happen after that? Jot that down. Maybe that's your bit of plot. Or maybe you're like, I have no idea how these scenes could actually play out, but I know some key things that have to happen. And it's like, okay, well, does this sound like it could be in the middle? Is this a door of no return? Is this just a fun and games? Slot those in, see what happens, and then maybe write a couple of them, or maybe don't. Maybe you keep writing, you keep brainstorming. So just start with what you know, and I'm giving you something that you know with the math. And then you know something that you know because you're the one that came up with the story idea. So you've got something you're excited about. Start there, build outward, and you will find that you're probably doing a mix of plotting and pantsing anyway. If you just do start with what you know, and then work to what you realize you also know from that, and then go into the unknown, whether that be unknown story points that you're going to write in bullets or unknown scenes that you're going to write. Go from there, and then you'll find that you've written a book.
And that's a great place to wrap this lesson. I know you got to run.
Sounds
Thanks for jumping
good.
on the live stream this morning. It was good to
Thank you
catch you.
so much. It was good to talk to you too.
Cheers. Thanks, Gabby. I will catch you later.
Catch you later. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye. Gabby's awesome. She has a commute to her day job. So we only have a limited time. All right, we got about 9 minutes before our next guest comes on. So if anybody has any questions or anything, thanks to Anthony for dropping that comment in the chat earlier. If there are any questions that I can take a stab at sharing what has worked for me, I am happy to do that. Otherwise, what I'm going to do is screen share, and let's see how far I can get through recording um, a short kind of read through. I'm trying to get a recording of this thing for my writing community. So I'm just going to take a few minutes and go through this, and we can just sort of go through this together. So I did the first one. We were talking about dreaming before. How can I make this thing bigger on the screen? And then, yeah, in about 8 minutes or so, we will bring on our first guest. All right. So I want to get this as a recording. I'm going to put it in my community, sit back and listen, enjoy maybe, or maybe it gives you some prompting or thinking. Okay. Dreaming is the point of going to sleep for your soul. So sure, you don't remember every dream. You can't always control it. Um, which is, yeah. But there are some mystics that I have studied who say that you dream every night, but you don't often have the ability to remember it. You do speak with, let's say, the angels, your guides, uh, past friends, or something, the Holy Spirit, perhaps. It's a bit like a baby. You know how a baby, peekaboo, you can't see, is like you disappear, right? You forget as soon as you fade back and you cross into the shape of your skin, cross back into your body. Either way, an attentive dream life means you can be more balanced and centered during your day. So, dreaming done intentionally, or when you're open to it intentionally, it's a way that you can step away from your daylight idea of yourself and then meet with other parts of you that you've been ignoring, because that's what routinely happens. Psychologists call it your subconscious. It just means everything that you're not paying attention to, because for good reasons or bad, whatever, you're just not paying attention to that. So, I've started to change my sleep habits. Started about 2 years ago. I've been almost 3 now, maybe. I don't know, paying more attention to this. Most nights, not all of them, I look forward to going to sleep. For about 2 years, my dreams have become more consistent, more vivid. I used to have nightmares of these massive dragons, dinosaurs, these trolls, and so on. They have mostly faded away, which is interesting now that I'm actively paying attention to this part of my life. It's something that we're alive here, something that we're doing. Things that I have to think and weigh in my daily life. I can start paying attention to patterns and start putting better attention on it. I think that's the whole point, right? Your attention is the point. Every night, your daylight self lies down and you use your waking consciousness constantly throughout the day. It's a bit like a highly focused laser pointer. Your mind and your body senses work really hard to filter out all the information that you don't think you need. The thing with a laser pointer, though, is that you can only see very small things at once. It's like trying to look through a tiny little hole versus as much as you can look when you're not wearing anything that's obstructing your vision, right? Dreaming is more like that, which automatically means it's going to be more confusing, especially if you're not used to all of this new, information or storytelling coming in. Um, so when your body goes to sleep, your consciousness doesn't need sleep. Not in the same way. It doesn't need body rest. Your consciousness doesn't get tired the way your body gets tired. Your consciousness replenishes itself by paying attention to different things. This is my opinion. This is what I have learned. You may object. It's up to you. Sometimes we do refresh ourselves by paying attention to nothing, which is why some people have really intense meditative practices of practicing observing nothing to try to get a bit of control over, you know, your mind, your imagination as a sense organ. Um, Sleep is a little bit like a nightly dark retreat, right? Where people enter these sensory deprivation tanks for like 7 to 19 days, to like block out everything and then try to really focus on things. When you sleep, your conscious awareness returns to the realms of your soul. And that realm is where stories come from. On this Legend Fiction channel, I had a conversation with David Bentley Hart all about dragons and his book Kino Gaia, which is awesome. And we also talked about dreaming a bunch in there as well. He pointed out ancient cultures, East and West, um, treated dreams as journeys. The spirit would depart at night into real places, sometimes that reveal things that can be truthful, or sometimes that can deceive you or leave you confused. David Bentley Hart insists imagination and dreams belong to the same continuum as visions and revelation. Doesn't mean you're automatically getting, you know, revelation and visions when you dream. Sometimes you can, and sometimes you don't pay any attention and you just forget if you don't have a habit like of dream journaling. He shares some in the conversation, some prophetic dreams of his youth, some foretelling events that had like really uncanny precision, and he recalls his father's equally vivid foresight. Dreams can be communications and messages. They're not only psychic, static. Uh, if you're in the modern materialist mindset, which is on its way out, where you are some kind of a thinking insect thing inside your um, your your bone and body form, and there's nothing really outside of you, um, then dreams obviously are just some sort of psychic static. Just don't think too hard about the words that are being used, as opposed to the old sense, which is nope. Uh, you are much more than your body. In fact, your body is inside you, and when you dream, you are detaching, leaving from your physical body form and engaging with your fuller, wider self, which is your the soul part of you. And if you don't have any attention structured around that, well, you're not going to remember it, probably not going to do as well with the challenges or the thoughts that are being prompted to help you form and strengthen and uh, evolve your attention to grow up. Now, some are psychic static, absolutely true. Some of them are the fears and the pressures of the waking mind that we ignore during the day, and they do come rushing in at nighttime to be processed and to be loved through, to be thawed through, once we are more relaxed. But we're dealing with the realm of the soul, like call it the perilous realm. Um, it's a universe of, think of it, woods between worlds, okay? Worlds within worlds without end. The imagination is our amphibious overlap between these different sides of you. They can even be created or curated for you. Dreams are incredible, which is this is where angels or your spirit guides uh, borrow the mental furniture of the pictures and ideas that you have, so that they can try to communicate with you because they can't use words, right? Your guardian angel is regularly doing this. Your beloved family members who have passed on are regularly doing this. Your patrons and the saints who have adopted you are also engaging in your life. And this is why messages and ideas will remain consistent across cultures, even across thousands of years. Even if the gift wrapping changes, the mental furniture might change, but the textures, the shapes, the names of things change, but the core ideas routinely don't. This is why we have something like mythology and fairy tales, which are undying, everlasting sort of ideas that routinely come back again and again. Some people train themselves to pay closer attention to synchronicities that happen during your waking day, coincidences. Synchronicities is what Carl Jung called them. Cardinal Newman once said, paraphysical beings or angelic persons can't communicate the way that we do, so they use everything else in your environment for that. Think about Cooper in Interstellar, right? Traveling through time to communicate with his daughter, peeking through the edges of things. That's how but not wanting to interfere or overwhelm your freedom. All right. I've got a mental image. So let's talk about training your imagination. I got a mental image. When we sleep, we enter something like a bubble. It's like a holding zone. It's a spiritual kindergarten and is probably governed by our spirit guardian or guardian angel. Our imagination is like a door to our own Narnia. Sometimes our angel can whisk us into a bigger, wilder world or a more piercing, poignant scene to try to teach us something, probably something that we didn't pay attention to in our waking life or during the day. Imaginal worlds, they're all nested inside imaginal worlds, and then each person is the door between them. These cannot be forced open. I think you have to become more spiritually weighty to cross into these thresholds and learn to cultivate the skills like the saints did to open them. If you've ever read The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis, he talks about these unholy beings, and that they just didn't have a lot in them, trying to walk on the grass in heaven, and the grass felt like spears and blades of steel because they had no weight in them. They were as thin as ghosts. They needed to drink some water to take on some of the weight of the glory of heaven. Um, so I think this is why Numenor in Lord of the Rings is out of reach or gone, and Valinor is withdrawn from men. We must be invited. That's why sometimes we can receive great dreams, serious messages with serious meaning for you. And sometimes a dream can spark an entire novel series. Sometimes one dream can completely change your life, and many of us can wake in the morning and then completely forget within a second. We're only left with like a ringing echo of a feeling, and we can't trace exactly why. I think with a little practice, a little bit of sleep hygiene, you can start to heal yourself from the awful, horrible ideas that we have been given about what it means to be human. When I learned more of this view of dreaming, I felt this massive surge of joy. Now, make no mistake, it's not a safe place. It's a glorious place. The world that we know and love, that we live in, especially in our daylight consciousness, it's a classroom. It's a classroom that prepares us for the rest of who we're going to be. Okay. It needs mature adults with discerning minds to take up the tale and to take up the gauntlet. Okay, who lives in the perilous realm? Yes, I think this is absolutely true. Fairies cross back and forth all the time. Angels live there, whatever monsters live there, daimons live there. Ancient Greek word here. Yeah, there are evil things that live there too. They are beings that are busy and active. They have jobs to do and pacts and alliances and confederations and whatever and work, and they have been doing it long before we ever entered the world. The furniture changes, but the costumes that they borrow um, uh, change, but who they are is still there. As Tolkien quotes, fairy contains many things besides elves and fays, and besides dwarves, witches, trolls, giants, or dragons, it holds the seas, the sun, the moon, the sky, and the earth, and all the things that are in it, tree and bird, water and stone, wine and bread, and ourselves, mortal men, when we are enchanted. Everything that's here is also there, and we have to learn to make sense of that. So, in other words, fairy is the wide and perilous totality of your imaginal life. Perilous Realm is a better name to my mind. It's not exactly accurate, but I think it's pretty cool. Martin Shaw says that stories are the language of the soul. It's like a pulse of energy that has a beginning and a reason and an end, and you can organize your life around it. A story is an idea that we can feel and see because a person's life gives shape to it. Sometimes we invent stories the same way that we invent or create our own dreams, but stories can also arrive from outside, like elves making landfall from a crushed or a crashed galleon. A green knight rides into the hole of your soul and demands your attention. Not all stories are mere fantasies. They are sometimes gifts, sometimes burdens from this realm of fairy itself. I think we can tell the difference between stories, little stories, and then the great stories by how much we're prepared to sacrifice for them and how much we can't let them go, and sometimes how much they can't let us go. All right, that's the end of that. I'm going to bring on our first guest. Welcome to Shawn. Let's bring in Shawn. Hello, Shawn. Welcome to the live stream. Can you hear me, sir?
Can.
Hi. Connection's a little rough. Let's get it connected here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. I've got a little bit of a delay. Trying to wait for everything to catch up again. Go ahead and say hi again.
Hello.
Alrighty. Can I ask, do you have a pair of headphones? Because I'm getting audio feedback.
Sure.
Or actually,
I
yeah, you've got echo cancellation on. If it's possible to have headphones, that's always better.
I could try and find some. I don't have any.
Okay. Then let's yeah, unfortunately it's like really strong. Because it's picking up my speaking.
Yeah.
It actually seems to have gone away. That's curious. It's inconsistent. Okay, so you don't have any headphones?
Nearby. I could ask my mother.
I think we'll be able to get a good recording in if you do have headphones. I'd recommend, yeah, let's take 5, go grab them if you could.
Okay. Should I leave or you do it?
You can just leave it. It's fine.
Thank you.
All right, welcome back. Can you hear me? Am I coming through? Testing, testing. Testing, testing. Is it coming through for you, Shawn? You might have to refresh. Oh, it is working. You can hear me through the headphones?
Yeah.
Awesome. Good. Yeah, I don't think I hear anything.
Can you hear me?
I do hear you. A little bit of a delay. Let's see if it resyncs up as we keep chatting and it picks up from you. How's the weather for you? It looks like it's pretty bright outside.
Yeah, it's been pretty hot this past week.
Yeah, I can imagine. Where are you based in the country?
Minnesota, southern Minnesota.
Okay. Wow. All right. What are you? Probably like 4, 5. I have no idea. Hours away from where I am. All right. Can I ask? Try refreshing and come right back in so that we can get this to this thing back up to speed. I'm seeing a bit of a delay. Let's see if that helps. All right, welcome back. Let's try again. You hear me okay?
I can hear you.
All right, cool. Still a little bit of a delay. Is anybody else using the internet right now in your home?
No, I think it might just be slow, so I
Okay.
apologize.
Well, we'll do the best we can. Um, okay. Well, Shawn, welcome to the show. Congratulations, you have written and then self-published your own novel. So let's take like a half hour and let's talk about that. Let's talk about the novel. I'd like to hear more about your origin story and then what you're doing next. And so I think it's fantastic when somebody does well, when somebody does anything really, because most people don't do anything. They never begin, and you actually finished, and then you did something after finishing the novel. You actually published it. Congratulations. Can I ask how old you are? Because you're not as old as I am, and it's just amazing when
Uh,
younger people do stuff.
26.
Amazing. Okay. Are you in college yet, or have you graduated, or what's going on in your life right now?
Yeah, I graduated from college with a bachelor's of computer science from University of Minnesota Morris.
Okay. Wow. You work full time, or are you taking time off to write, or what's going on in your life?
Um, I'm trying to find a new full-time job right now. I've done like a range of things
Hmm.
in my past, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, good. Well, good. That's range of things is always good. That can mean lots of interesting experience. So tell us about the novel. What is this novel that you have written? Do you have a copy you can wave around and show us?
I I didn't I forgot to start with a copy,
Don't worry, it'll
but
be on the thumbnail of
I
this segment. So tell us
yeah
about the novel. What's the blurb? And yeah, what inspired
yeah.
it?
It's kind of inspired by the Book of Job, and in that there's like I created a magic system like vices and virtues,
Hmm.
and kind of like that. There's just like faithful writing. That's and then God is like casting judgment, or like the same way like was like, oh, in Job he's like you should test Job to see, kind of like test his, see if he really is faithful to you. And
Hmm.
so I've created like a counterbalance to good faith, my um, magic system. So there's a dark writing and a faithful writing.
Hmm.
So that's kind of like the main inspiration from Job.
So
And
why,
then
yeah, why did Job inspire you to then create your own epic fantasy novel? Like, what is it about that book that so moves you?
I think it's just like I wanted to create something tangible and that evil was present.
Hmm.
So I kind of show evil in my fantasy. And I think Job is just a really, I'm not sure why exactly like I don't exactly have a Job character, but like characters could be like Job because no one is like a character being exactly like Job who's like I forget the word is, what the word is, un um
Like unmovable, unchangeable.
yeah, like he's unfailable, kind of,
Right, unfailing. There you go.
because
Okay.
he doesn't do anything wrong, right?
Hmm.
Really, he
Hmm.
just gets something, judgment passed down, and all these bad things happen to him.
Hmm.
um yeah.
Yeah, faithful in impossible adversity, impossible odds. So where does your story go? Because it's your own take. Comes a point where you're like, okay, I'm not actually writing a one for one for Job anymore. This is now my own world, my own characters.
Yeah,
Take us into that. What is that?
it's like it's an epic fantasy. I created 8 characters, and I kind of paired them up. I was inspired by I was watching a lot of story grid videos, and they always
Hmm.
talked about conflict,
Hmm.
and so I kind of paired up the characters so the personalities would clash, and And I was kind of inspired. I have a background, have two different faith backgrounds. My mom was Lutheran and my dad was Catholic. So I
Okay.
kind of have two different religions. They're both inspired from that. And then each of my characters are a part of like one or two of those religion or their background. And
Mm-hmm.
that so one is called the Luminant Communion, and the
Mm-hmm.
other is called the Sanctorum of Order. So
Mm.
Luminant Communion is like the Lutheran. I is what I think is Lutheran, which is strict, but that could be different for other people, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
I think Catholic is like more strict and like orderly, so that's why I call them the Sanctorum of Order.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you've got two orders, and they're both interpreting or engaging with the world in their own ways. So, and then you got eight characters. Okay, I'm assuming that doesn't mean eight protagonists, but there's like a couple of protagonists and then a bunch
No.
of strong side secondary characters. So, who are the main characters of the story?
Yeah. Yeah, I have Jahan, who's like a sword, 10-year typical Lancelot type. He's like a free wanderer,
Hmm.
and yeah, I would say he's one of the main protagonists, but I would say Abel kind of steals the show because
Yeah.
he gets corrupted by the start writing, and he's yeah, and then I have two different priestesses, Eleanor and Rebecca, Rebecca is the mother of Abel, and they have two different mother and son relationships, and so another character, Elise, who is the son or the mother, sorry, of Bash, who
Hmm.
interacts. Bash and Abel like interact. They're kind of like the same age.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah,
What people ask about comp titles. Like, what would you say this story
right.
feels like, or is similar to? What other worlds would you go like? If you like this, you're gonna love this. What are some of those stories or vibes or genres?
I read some different Brandon Sanderson. I
Hmm.
guess I was inspired by like magic systems,
Hmm.
and I wanted to create something that was like similar in my own way. So I feel like Brandon fans of Brandon Sanderson would. It's not like my magic system is like maybe it's not like a hard magic system, but
Hmm.
I think they would enjoy my story. I would say it's pretty unique, but maybe every author says that, but yeah.
Nice. I want to ask you about the magic system in a minute. Um, I had another question I wanted to ask and I forgot. Well, okay, so let's talk about the magic system. Sounds like you put thought into it. And as somebody who's, did you say you were a software engineer, or forget? Sorry, what was your degree again?
Kind of, yeah, computer science. So I
Computer
could have
science.
gone into software engineering, but I never
Okay,
got a full-time job.
got it.
I
Okay, I
I've
assume
done
it's a
like
very
web design.
okay
Yeah,
web design. Okay, it seems
I've
like it's
done
a
like website building before.
pretty methodical sort of thing. So, how did that
Yeah.
inspire or interact with as you're building your magic system? Did you draw from some of what you learned, your experience with that, to help you build it out?
Yeah. So like the cover of my book is like a blessing on like a palm, and so people have to get really close. Like they can imbue this blessing of the seven different like virtues if
Hmm.
there's like faithful writing, and then it can give them it. They each do give like different things, but like perseverance will make you, or like patience, humility.
Hmm.
Um, they each do different things.
Hmm. I'm curious to learn more about you. So, have you always grown up in sort of a bi faith or a multi faithful sort of household or multi religious household? Um, what was life like for you growing up? What kind of books did you turn to that formed you,
Right.
especially fantasy fiction and stuff?
Yeah, I read Harry Potter, of course, and
Mhm.
I was a big fan of the Warriors, the
Oh,
cats.
yeah. Okay. I've never read that
Um,
one. Is that a good
right.
one?
Um, I don't really remember much. but they were really exciting because the cats fight,
Okay.
and I think that has really good structure because I really enjoyed Firestar. I remember one of the main protagonists in like the first maybe trilogy
Hmm.
of that series. His the naming would change when they were like a paw, so it'd be like Fire Paw, and then he became a leader. It was like Firestar,
Hmm.
and so I really enjoyed that like structure, and I really like structure
Hmm.
myself, of course. So I'm an outliner and everything in my faith.
Hmm.
Yeah, we were always Catholic because that's what they decided to do
Hmm.
with my mom and dad. But it wasn't until like, college where I really integrated with. We started reading the Bible more uh, after finding InterVarsity and get involved with InterVarsity Christian Fellowship.
Hmm. Nice. Wow. Okay. Um, so okay, are you somebody who has always loved writing, or is it something that you started doing when you were older? Did you like take creative writing classes, or like what was, yeah, tell us about your origin story as an author. What's that been like?
I would say in my high school years, I took some college classes,
Hmm.
but I don't think I enjoyed writing because it was fight for school,
Oh,
even though
really?
I wrote some papers. But so I think it was, and talking about myself still is like never enjoyable. I'm starting a memoir. I
Oh, yeah.
started already, but it's always difficult to talk about yourself, at least for me. And so last February is when I started writing because I had like a contract job in like web development that I lost sadly, and so
Ah,
I was
I'm
just like
sorry.
I'm done with
Hmm.
finding jobs and like going through the process. And so I inspired. I was going through a book called Freedom in Christ. It was like a 8 week or like 10 week thing with some other people at a church, and
Hmm.
they were talking about like strongholds of evil, and I was like, oh, that sounds. So I just started writing like a little bit, and I kind of wrote a little bit just to process my feelings of like losing the job and like different things.
Hmm.
And in college, I took some British literature and a few other not writing classes, but like poetry. And I had written some poetry in college, but other than
Hmm.
that, it was mainly like last year. Losing my job kind of was sparked like I'm gonna start writing, I guess.
Hmm.
And then
Nice.
I went through the slog of like writing my first 20,000 words, which were like terrible.
Really?
And
Why? Say why? Say more. Why was it terrible? I mean, most of us watching this totally get what you mean, but why was it terrible for you?
yeah. Oh, just like your first, they always say your first like words. It's just like learning the process of writing and like what to cut, and it's
Hmm.
just like when you're starting something, riding a bike.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I've really grown over the year as a writer, and I still have more to grow, of course. So
So you dived into the deep end with this whole writing thing, like a year ago. Um, how did you? Okay, why didn't you quit after that 20,000 word ordeal? What was it that kept you going so that you actually? How long is the novel, by the way? Like 50,000 words, 70,000 words?
it's no, it's like 90,000.
Amazing. Okay,
It's
so
like
you
towards
actually
epic
kept, you
fantasy.
kept on going. Why did you keep going, or how did you find? Uh, the whatever to keep on going, pacing yourself, learning or whatever, starting a new habit really.
Yeah, I just wanted. I was really like passionate about the characters I was creating,
Hmm.
and I just wanted to share a story that I think like Christian people or other people would like enjoy.
Mhm.
And I started reading like consistently like 10,000 words a week,
Wow. A
like
week, huh?
trying to do like 2,000. I was trying to do like 2,000 a day, which I don't
Mhm.
really do nowadays, but if they have a time I try and do 1,000, but yeah.
Are you still writing? Or now that you've done with that novel, you taking a break?
I'm writing a different book currently, but the second book is like the process. It's
Mhm.
like a good portion of the way along. It's like at 50,000, 55,000 words because
Amazing.
it's a trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. So, what is it that you hope your readers will walk away with? And when they finish your novel, um, is it just a rollicking good story? Is it something that's more deep and meaningful to you? Is it a message that you're trying to share? Like, for somebody who just decided, I'm going to write a novel, and then you did, and then you self-published it. I want to ask you a little bit about how you self-published and what that was like. But what is it you're hoping that people will get from the book?
Yeah. I think like my title of the book is The Redeemed Soul.
Hmm.
I think like at the end of the story there's like a bittersweet ending,
Hmm.
and I think it rings true like no matter I've had some scars recently that I've had to process, and no matter like what situation you're in, anyone can come back from it and be redeemed. I think that really rings true in my book. Like Abel, he goes through a lot in my book,
Hmm.
so and endures a lot. Yeah,
You described it as an epic fantasy novel, and you've identified two major factions within it. Um, what else in the book makes it epic fantasy? Is it what happens? Is it the amount of creatures? I don't know, fantasy creatures in it? Like, what would be your
right.
definition of epic fantasy that the way that your book presents it?
I think epic fantasy for me is having following a few different characters
Hmm.
and having some epic battles. So I have like three different like battles
Hmm.
in my book. I don't really have any. There's like a troll, but other than that, I don't really have any creatures. I've
Hmm.
never been like a dragon person. I'm fine with dragons.
Hmm.
I don't know if I want to write about them. So
Right, right. I hear that. Let's talk about self-publishing. How did you So how did you write the novel? Was it in like Microsoft Word or something? And then did you get help with the cover? Did you make your own cover? So let's go through that a little bit. What are the mechanics of how you made it all happen?
yeah, I found an application called Biblisto that I paid like $50 for like a one-time purchase for
Hmm.
like the pro version or whatever. And I really enjoyed that for organizing scenes and chapters. And
Hmm.
you can have like tons of different books or like I have novellas that
Nice.
before I have two novellas that after writing the first 60,000 words of my book, I sent it to like an editor and then started writing some first person novellas to
Hmm.
like kind of build up the backstory and
Hmm.
explore the characters more.
And for you, a novella is about how long?
And I have 30,000 words, I think, or less.
Okay, wow. So then, okay, so you sent drafts off to your editors, I think you said, once you hit about 50,000 words.
Yeah.
And then how did
Hmm.
you publish the book? Did you create your own covers? Like, again, for those who are kind of like you, they're
Yeah.
starting out. I'd love to
I
understand
found
how did you get through it?
A Christian artist who
Hmm.
did my book,
Okay, nice.
and then I'm actually published through Prime Story Publishing.
Okay, are they a good company? You like them?
Uh, I would they need some work.
Okay. What would your ideal
But
publishing company be like? What would it do for you, or what would you expect from it?
um, I think they're just a little get things done faster.
Hmm. Okay. Keep
Yeah.
up with your pace of things. And I think you mentioned that you're going to some big event or a conference or something, and you're presenting about your book there. You've got a table. So you're already out marketing this thing as well.
Yeah, no, my publishers actually went to a conference in Chicago
Hmm.
already. But I didn't go to Railmakers this year, so
Okay. All right. Got it. So then you're already working on a sequel. How long do you have a timeline? Or are you just taking it a little more gradually? Or have you learned lessons and now you can do it faster? Or like, where's your head at? How's it working for you now to write a sequel?
yeah. Um, I think I'm gonna take my time, but it'll probably be published next year in maybe the summer, same time.
Okay.
But I think I was just a little rushed. Not that the
Really?
book isn't finished, because it is.
Hmm.
I just felt a little rushed
Hmm.
in like there's so much editing for such a big book,
Hmm.
and they'd be like, oh no, is there a plot or something I should have finished? There's so many times where it's like I need to like use the plot device I created. Why didn't I use that?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's just like,
What was your
it's hard
process
to keep track
for?
of everything.
Oh, I can imagine. What was your process for editing? Did you hire someone or did you have a tool that helped you?
Um, yeah, my publisher had someone for me,
Nice.
but I mean, I went through it
Hmm.
but yeah.
Okay. So where can people find you online, Sean, to stay in touch with you, learn more about what you think and your adventures and so on? Um, I think you have a Substack, is that right?
Yeah, it's ShawnReuter.substack.com.
Okay. What kind of things do you post on there and what can people look forward to from you?
Right now, I was reading The Art of Dramatic Writing by host Idri, and so I have a couple posts already out
Hmm.
about character and premises, and then I was doing one post on like my world building of
Hmm.
how I like built my world
Nice.
and some of the things I talked about today. So yeah.
Fantastic. And then, well, last question for you is who's your target audience? Who do you hope really enjoys your novel and bites into it? Who did you create it for?
I don't know if I had like anyone really in mind. Like I think younger audiences, it's there's nothing
Hmm.
that mature about the book. I keep the fight scenes aren't like gory at all.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Okay, so it's
so
more
I
like a
think anyone
G or
can
a
enjoy
PG
it.
rating. Okay.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, there'll be some like there's some people die, but
Yeah.
nothing too
So
explicit.
where can people find you? Where can people find the book online if they want to grab a copy? And I'll take the link as well. I'll put it in the description. But where can people go find it online?
Sure. Yeah, on Amazon, I think it's on a bunch of other platforms, Barnes and Noble,
Hmm.
and yeah, I couldn't name them all, but yeah.
Excellent. Sean, thanks for coming on. It was fun to spend time with you and meet you. Again, it's always super impressive for, I mean, I won't say you're exactly young, 'cause you're not a teen anymore, mid 20s, but the fact that you just decided, you know what, I'm going to do a thing, and then you went and did it and you published it, and you're now starting to build, I don't know, a new habit, a new identity as well as being an author. It's fantastic. Good for you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, what I'll do is I will clip out this segment once the live stream is over, and over the next week, post this up on YouTube, and then hopefully you can use it to keep marketing your book and giving people a chance to meet you. So thanks for coming on the live stream. It was good to meet you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dominic.
Alrighty. Cheers, friend. Catch you later.
Yep.
There we go. It's always awesome to have somebody creating and actually getting stuff done. All right, we should have our next guest is Joel, and I see he's going to be on at 11:40. Joel, if you are on, you are welcome to jump onto the live stream. I'm actually going to go get myself a glass of water. I will be right back, friends. Hey, friends, welcome back. We've got our next guest. I'm bringing in Joel. Hello, Joel. Welcome. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
I am good. Good to have you back.
Yeah,
You're all the
thanks.
way up in, are you in Canada? Or are you
Yeah, I'm in
near?
Ottawa.
You are in Ottawa. Okay. How's the weather up there? Is it as hot as it is down here?
Yeah, it's been pretty hot. In Ottawa, July 1st, Canada Day was
Mhm.
the second rainiest day in Ottawa since they've been tracking, and something like 5,000 basements, including ours, got flooded.
Oh, oh my gosh. And yours. How are you doing with that?
Fine. We didn't actually get a lot of water. We still got enough that, like, the insurance company is bringing in contractors to basically redo everything, but it's mostly a matter of, like, just getting the stuff out of
Mhm.
there. Like, we didn't, like, some houses in town got like 2, 3 feet of water. We
Oh
only had
gosh.
a couple inches.
Oh wow. Wow. Do you work from home? Like, is this affecting your ability to do stuff?
E Sort of. It's mostly just, like, I need to find somewhere to, like, actually
Store.
set up because
Yeah.
my usual, workspace is down in the basement and needs to be,
Oh
like,
really?
torn
Okay.
up and, yeah,
Oh no.
refinished.
That's awful. That's awful. Well, I'm sorry. Do you you don't do fireworks for Canada Day, do you?
We usually do, but, this year, because it was a biblical deluge, it, sort of got
Yeah.
canceled, and then the city kinda got into a bit of a controversy because, July is also when, Blues Fest happens. It's like a big outdoor concert, so they set off the leftover fireworks, during Blues Fest without telling anyone they were going to.
Oh, no. Okay. So, did that ruin it for people?
I'm not really sure. I think a lot of people, or well, like, some people are mad because they wanted to see the fireworks and didn't know they
Mhm.
were going to be happening. Some people are mad because, like, why is downtown exploding? So,
Right. The most epic blues event ever, in Canadian history. Wow. Well, thanks for coming on. I thought it'd be cool to get, um, a chance to chat with you, learn more about you. We haven't actually done this on the channel. You've been involved for I don't know, we've been sort of, involved with, what with Imona Literary, and, you've been on the last 2 Legend Havens, and now you're involved in Stories Live, which is an event that you help host inside the Legend Fiction community, and you're deeply involved in gaming and D&D, and I don't even know yet. Do you write your own novels? Are you somebody who's into storytelling? Because you've written a
um,
couple already for the Flash Fiction challenges, I think.
yeah, technically I haven't written any, like, novel length
Mhm.
things yet, but everything I have written is, like, between 14 and 17,000 words, so, like,
That's
novella
some
length.
heavy, yeah, that's hefty stuff right there. Well, can we talk about your latest project that you're either working on or recently finished, maybe, and then like chat about you and writing process or gaming stuff like that, since that's a big passion of yours. And then lastly, where people can find you and what you're doing next. So why don't we start with your latest project? What are you working on?
So I guess we can sort of, like, tie this into the bigger discussion because, as people who have been attending the Stories Live events know, the story I'm currently working on, it's based around something I call the Free Company of Mariburg. It's a, like, adventuring
Okay.
guild that I think is very much D&D influenced, and during the Stories Live events, a lot of people have been saying, like, yeah, this really captures the feel of a D&D
That's awesome.
campaign. So I think, yeah, so far so good. It's the same world that my last 2 flash fiction stories have been set
Hmm.
in. So to get, I guess, a preview of what the finished story is going to look like, check out the Quill Drake and the Emberwing collections.
Hmm.
In wrestling terminology, that's what they call a cheap pop.
I dig it. So tell us more about it. How are you trying to capture, like you say, this D&D energy, and you're doing it in a story?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it is, I think, as much as, a good story, tries to, like, avoid the cliches and, like, the standardized world building. I think one of my main motivations for the Free Company world was, like just gonna go all in on the genre cliches. I'm really gonna lead into it. I think one of
Mhm.
my other big influences was the old Conan the Barbarian movie because they're fighting an evil snake cult.
Mhm. So keep going. Tell us more about the story. What happens?
So like I've said, it's this group of adventurers. So like in real life, Free Company is, basically mercenaries that don't have a feudal obligation to
Okay.
anyone. So like the Free Company is sort of like on retainer as this city, Mariburg, sort of like problem solvers, like for anything that like it wouldn't make sense to send in like the full army for. So they get reports of like weird lights in the swamp at night. So they go into the swamp, find the snake cult, and then sort of builds up from
Okay.
there.
Wow. And so this is a novella that you're working on?
Yeah, I think it's probably gonna be a little under 20,000 words when it's finished. My
Mhm.
plan with this is to start serializing it somewhere
Oh, cool.
online. I haven't quite decided where and how I'm
Mhm.
gonna do that yet because I need to have it finished first.
Nice. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think people are very brave who can be serializing something while they're still creating it. Like I don't have that kind of bravery. Stuff's got to be done. At least I could be editing it and then maybe releasing it. But what are some of the other novels that or novellas that you
Um,
have been working on?
Since 2017, I've been putting out a middle grade YA-ish fantasy series called Realm Guard. Yeah, I think that's the bulk of what I'm putting out now
Nice.
because the first three stories are available on the Realm Guard website, cheap
Hmm.
pop. A lot of what I put out on my Patreon right now for my subscribers is related to the Realm Guard
Hmm.
stuff. I'm in the process of rewriting those first three stories because I've gone back and read them and realized I'm not necessarily a better writer now, but I definitely have a better grasp of like how this world and how this character or how the characters work and like what the ideal Realm Guard sense of humor is. So I'm redoing the first three stories. I've got a friend who does VO and narration who's going to be working on an audiobook
Oh,
version
cool.
of the first story. So
Okay.
again, that's going to go up on my Patreon first and then sort of spread it out from there.
Hmm. So let's talk more about Realm Guard, right? So if you go to, what is it, realmguard.com, you've got a couple of short stories up already. And you said you've been doing this or working on this since 2017.
Yeah.
So tell us about this world. What is it? You've got
Um,
maps on there and there's all kinds of artwork and stuff.
Yeah, so this isn't quite as relentlessly like D&D influenced as the Mariburg stories are, but I think if anything, it's probably most similar to Discworld, which isn't necessarily deliberate. It just turns out that I have a very British sense of humor.
Really? That's great.
Yeah, so I've got a couple of different groups of characters, but the primary characters, especially in those first three stories that are on the website right now, it's two sisters, Kat and Dunstana Darkstone, who sort of originated with the fact that it turns out I had a lot of stuff to work through about suddenly becoming an older sibling. Like I'm 10 years, 11 years older than my little brother, and he was really like out of nowhere.
Hmm.
So yeah, it turns out I had a lot of stuff to work through about that. So the like
Okay.
relationship between Kat, who is the older sibling, and Dunstana, who is the younger sibling and also a full-time pirate, is sort of the like driving
Hmm.
theme of those original stories. And then I've got a couple of other groups of characters. And like I said, I'm redoing those
Hmm.
first three stories because it's been almost 10 years at this point. In those 10
Hmm.
years, I have a much better sense of how I want Kat and Dunstana to work.
Nice. Wow. Can you describe the world of Realm Guard? So you said it's like Discworld, so a little bit like, yeah, paint a picture for us.
Yeah, so like it's not necessarily like a parody of the typical fantasy world. And if it is a parody, it's a very affectionate parody because, like I like these stories and like, in real life you can sort of judge how much I like you by how much I make fun of you because I think if we have that kind of relationship, like you understand that like I'm not doing this to be mean. So
Hmm.
yeah, I think my approach to like the world building is very like that. So yeah, like fairly standard fantasy world, like elves, dwarves, adventure,
Hmm.
um, pirates.
That's fantastic. I want to understand more about you. You mentioned that your humor is more British. Um, why is that?
I don't know, like, a lot of sarcasm, like fairly dark occasionally, fairly self-deprecating.
Right.
Yeah, but like it's gotten to the point where, I've been reading some of the Discworld stories and, like come across like Terry Pratchett making a joke that like I can't include in a Realm Guard story because he's already made it. So now people will
Oh
think
no.
I'm
Right.
plagiarizing him. So
Hmm.
yeah.
What were some of the shows or books that you read growing up?
So for reasons I don't even entirely understand, the novelization of the movie Willow has been ridiculously influential on me. Like
Really?
the
Okay.
first thing I can remember sitting down to write was literally just Willow, but like all of the names were clumsily changed, so it like
Really?
wasn't just exactly Willow. I mean, like Lord of the Rings, Narnia. Um, I didn't actually read a lot of kids stuff as a kid. Like I sort of went straight from like, like
Straight for the meat.
like my mom read me Narnia and then Lord
Hmm.
of the Rings, and then like I read me Narnia and Lord of the Rings, and then read a lot of the Star Wars tie-in novels, but not necessarily the ones that were written for kids.
Right, right, right. That's so fun. Um, Tell me about Willow because it's been maybe, oh gosh, 20 years. I'm 38. So I must have blasted through that first movie because I'd never watched it growing up. And I thought, okay, I guess you had to be there. Unfortunately, I'm an absolute heretic when it comes to cult, what are they, cult movies? And like, it must have just passed my time or something. So I never really got into it. And I didn't finish the new series that came out. So if you were to sell me on Willow, like, why do you love Willow?
So, to contextualize things, it's directed by Ron Howard based on, I'm not sure if he actually wrote the script or just the outline of the story, but George Lucas. It's basically Star Wars if it was a fantasy novel.
Interesting. I didn't
Willow,
realize that.
yeah,
Okay.
Willow, the main character is, I think they're called Nelwyns in Willow. Like he's basically a hobbit.
Yeah.
It's played by the guy who was under the costume of the main Ewok in Return of the Jedi. He
Oh, funny.
finds this baby who is destined to overthrow the evil queen. And again, if you sort of take the script of the original Star Wars and replace Death Star plans with Magic Baby, I think you'll get a pretty good sense of how the story goes.
Right, right. That's great. It's so funny thinking about um it's funny thinking about where we've come, right, as a culture through the George Lucas and the Jim Henson, um drawing a blank on some of these others is they did such weird and interesting things to fantasy, and now that it's become more mainstreamed, it's like not exactly sure what we want anymore, but um oh darn, what was I gonna say? I was thinking of something, I forgot where I was gonna go. What did you think of the new series of Willow? Do they pick it up and continue it in a good way?
I thought it was Um, Decent. Warwick Davis, Willow. I think really surprised me by how good an actor he was because admittedly he didn't have a lot to work with in the
Mm,
original Willow, and I think like he may have even still been a teenager when they were
really?
filming
Okay.
Willow. I don't remember how old he was, but yeah, he was young. And then again, I think the other thing I've really seen him in was Return of the Jedi, where he was a giant teddy bear who didn't talk. So
Wait,
I think
really? Oh, you mean as
as the Ewok,
okay, the Ewok, right,
yeah.
right.
So yeah, he really surprised me by how well he did. On the whole, I thought
Mhm.
the like story was fine. I think again, like the original Willow, like the world it was presenting was really weird in a really cool way.
Do you ever watch, Legend with Tom Cruise? I've only seen it once, again, 20 years ago.
No, I've
No.
seen clips, but I've never watched the whole thing. I mean, like, I'm still young enough that like the 80s weren't quite my time, so I missed out on a lot of that stuff. I mean, like,
Okay.
Krull is another awesome 80s fantasy movie that again, like I sort of missed out originally, and then I saw it on TV once and was sitting there going, "This is the best, worst thing I have ever seen."
Yeah, I try to watch, at least so that I can be aware of them, like the cult ones, like, Labyrinth, right, or Legend. I wanna go back and rewatch it because I remember thinking this is a very cool world. This cool world building. I remember loving the dwarves in it, with their massive super hairy ears that just go straight out sideways, and, that's one I think would be very interesting to come back as maybe a more expanded world or a miniseries or something. So, okay, tell us more about D&D. Why is D&D a big deal for you?
Um, I mean, like typical, I guess, or like quintessential, like nerd hobby. I mean, like I really like the like storytelling component. I mean, like I like dungeons, I like dragons. I do like being able to, like start from nothing and then like build up a character who, like goes
Mhm,
on to like beat evil gods to death with other evil gods.
mhm,
And I think one of the things the legend fiction community is probably gonna know about me is my D&D character seminar. I've run it at the last couple Legend Haven
mhm,
conventions. What's your story, stranger? Sheep pop. I'm sort of, like constantly working on like revising and finagling and massaging it. I'm hoping to be able to present it again online at some point in August. And when and if that does play out, keep an eye on the Legend Fiction community because I will be posting it
mhm,
there to let everyone know. And again, I think that sort of like reflects what my main interest in D&D
mhm,
is. Like I really do like, building up the character. I do, sort of like being able to go beyond like I punch the goblins. Okay, like okay, but why do I like punching goblins? Like what is my motivation for punching
mhm.
goblins? What do I hope to accomplish? So I think that's
Yeah.
sort of like the end goal of the seminar to sort of go from like okay, here's a like list of numbers on a sheet to okay, here's like an actual person.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. For those who are interested, we've got a, recording with Joel from the last Legend Haven where he goes through, high level sense in 15 minutes of what this workshop is, and, I really liked the advice that you sort of gave, and so people can go check that out about, working with a character before they're fully fleshed out, but, well, I'm interested to now sort of go beyond that a little bit and understand with you because I've got a working theory that learning the how do I say this? Learning the mechanics of game theory, like from D&D or being a dungeon master, can actually help authors be better authors or handle their characters or story structure better. And I'm very interested what you think about that and how the more you learn about D&D and D and all of this, maybe it's just literally learning the formulas, empowers you to come back and maybe write in a different way or a more efficient or effective way. I'm curious what you think about that.
I mean, I think there's definitely something there because I think, given the fact that the Marburg stories are like so essentially based on like the D&D archetypes and basic concepts, there are some points where I've been thinking like, okay, what would Lorea's character sheet look like? And then sort of, like blocking out, like, okay, what would her stats be? What spells would she know? Like, I think on the other hand, going that far is a little too constrictive because like I'm not that beholden to the actual mechanics of Dungeons and Dragons, but I think like on the other hand, there is something that can help an author there because you can sort of think like, okay, this character has like high strength, low dexterity, high intelligence, low wisdom. So like he's a like smart, book strong, but clumsy and like kind of slow on the uptake. So like what does a character like that actually look like? How do they like actually interact with the world they live in with the other characters? So yeah, I think it is possible to like go too far and be too constrained by the mechanics, but I think on the other hand, like at least understanding the like basic outline of like what the Dungeons and Dragons mechanics do for a character like can help like write a character because like someone who's like like weak but fast or like insightful but book dumb like is going to interact and perceive their world in a certain way.
That's what I think is so interesting about it all because as authors, especially beginner authors, right? It can feel like, and because it often is, there's no guardrails. I can do anything I want with my character. I can mash their stats all the way up to 100 on dexterity and charisma and skill and ability and whatever. And so to have like what you've just described, it sounds like there's constraints. You can't do anything. You have to create a predictable response pattern to throwing a character into a situation or having somebody interact with somebody else to come up with a solution to a situation. Um, so learning the constraints or the how a game works seems like it would affect or help authors perhaps create better characters and therefore better scenes.
I mean, I think at the very least, like having a character who like you're like visualizing is like, okay, all of his stats are like 2 million, he just shows up and wrecks everybody. I mean, like I think there is a certain value in a character who's like that. I mean, like it's Superman's role in the Justice League, it's Goku's role
Hmm.
in Dragon Ball, but like even like Goku and Superman like aren't perfect at everything. Like even they like have weaknesses or eventually like run into that enemy whose stats are all like 2 million and one, and
Right.
then like need to train in like the crazy hyperspace time chamber thing.
Hmm. Hmm. Um, I'm really interested in this idea, slightly adjacent to what we're talking about here. The idea of an author treating themselves like a sim or like a game character to level up. Um, Instead of just putting, your character on the page, what if you could put yourself on the page and kind of look at your own life, maybe from a bit of a game point of view, and start looking at, well, where are the gaps? What do I like? What do I dislike? And because I've never paid attention to it, uh, maybe I can start making a difference. I can start leveling myself up. It's one of the reasons why I've got it's in one of our welcome sequences in the community. As soon as you join, you get a little welcome, it's like a welcome course, and there's like 3 little sheets in there where you audit yourself, and then you audit your world, and then you audit your guilds to start fleshing out a picture of yourself. I'm curious where you would go with that if you were to take that to a next step, or I don't know, run a workshop or something. I don't know where this goes. Curious what you think as somebody who does this a lot. How could we become better authors or just better human beings if we started doing this sort of thing?
I mean, my first reaction to this is like once you like hammer out the details and like put it out as like a book or like an online course or whatever, my first instinct was, man, you could make so much money with this because
Oh, okay,
like
tell me more.
I
Why?
like
What do you see about this
I
that
mean,
I
I
don't
think
see?
like self-help like is a very lucrative
Mhm.
industry, and I think that applies to, like how to write better stuff aimed specifically at authors. I'm still, trying to think like, okay, like what would this actually look like in terms of like what's in the book, what's in the seminar. But I do think that, yeah, like trying to present this as like you are a character in your own story or campaign or
Mhm.
whatever, and then like leaning into like the character sheet stuff. I think because there is a fairly big overlap between like D&D fans and authors, I think especially fantasy authors, because the like Venn diagram between nerds and authors is basically a
It's
circle.
pretty high.
So yeah,
Yes,
like
exactly.
I think like there would definitely be an audience for this. Like once you get the like, can't think of the right word right now for this, but like the aesthetic of this, like
Mhm,
if you like lead into like the DM, the character sheet
mhm.
thing, and like present this as like, okay, now you're like running the campaign of yourself. I definitely think there would be an audience for this.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I'm glad you think so. I'll need to pick your brain at some point to how to go deeper on this. Um, what did you think, or how would you solve this next sort of part of this? Like, let's say you do fill in the character sheets, right? Which is kind of what we've got. It's on the blog. Anybody can go download these and grab them, color them in, fill them in, have fun with them. They're sort of broken out and explained how they work. The thing that I did not build is like, what happens next? I just did it as sort of a like an auditing, self-reflection kind of retreat sort of thing. But then how do you turn it into like a campaign, like for your own life, where you're not just making up stuff for whatever? Um, it's that next part that I'm not like sure how to tackle that. How would you start picking at that?
Yeah, so I think this is the sort of thing that needs like more than like 15 seconds of
Yeah, I know.
consideration. But again, I think my initial reaction is, like thinking back to like how D&D like actually operates as a game. And I think one of the things that came to mind immediately was random tables, because
Hmm.
like D&D, I think especially the early editions under Gary Gygax loved to like roll a D100 and then like something happened. So even if it was, something like, like 100 writing prompts or something, like write about your favorite uncle, like write about your high school graduation. I guess maybe, yeah, like somewhere to like, or way to steer what comes next. And again, like with only 15 seconds to think about this, the thing that
No.
is
Yeah, you're
coming to
good.
me is random tables.
Yeah, that's interesting. Um, so far, my thought, and I don't know if I'll turn this into an app, but that might actually be a really helpful sort of thing to do. But it would be like you pick a campaign. Like once you've done your character, pick a campaign. Do you want to finish your first novel? Do you want to be an author? Do you want to self-publish? Do you want to trad publish? And then each one of those is going to have a series of steps, and then you would progress through those steps to get the badge. And so it would take some of the thinking out of it for someone to know. Well, I've now got a path. I've got a campaign to play. And then by the time I get to the other end of that, this sort of opens up the next tier of um, games that you can play. Like now you got to market my book, and now I have to learn to be the right kind of content creator. Maybe I don't. Sky's the limit with the number of campaigns, but it's interesting to think about.
Yeah, and like again, sort of thinking at like how to, like actually pitch this to people. I think like tur I think especially that component as something of like a either like self-help or self-care thing. I think that would really be marketable because you could like, you finished a draft, buy yourself something cool, like you sent out a query letter, like
Hmm.
take a week off.
Yeah, there you go. Get a little reward system. Well, we got to close up, Joel. This is fun. Where can people find you online? Tell us a bit about Amona Literary Services. You offer, I think, editing services. Yes.
Yeah, editing, beta reading. I've done manuscript formatting, like social media
Hmm.
posts. If you need something that I don't show as one of my services, just send me an email. Info at emonaliterary.com is sort of like my general business and writing stuff. Realmguard.com is specifically the Realmguard stuff. My other main blog is my Substack, emonoliterary.substack.com. I would say most helpful thing you could do for me at this point is either subscribe to my Substack or subscribe to my Patreon. You get stuff from my Patreon, even if you join the free tier. Cheap pop.
And I'll put those links in the description so folk can check them out.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Who's the right kind of audience that you serve through Imona Literary?
I think specifically I'm trying to target other Canadians. I'm not sure how many other Canadians there are in the legend fiction community, but I do take international and specifically US clients. That's not a big deal. I could make that work. I would say like authors like me, like self-published, neurodivergent, like fairly new to this stuff. Again, like if you need help or think I can help, send me an email and I'll try to help.
Yeah. It's fantastic. No, that's good to know. So new authors, maybe neurodivergent authors, like you mentioned, beginner authors, it's not C-suite memoirs. So you got a niche, and you're obviously someone who's extremely nerdy, and you get the references in the culture, and so that's valuable. That's a
Ladies,
differentiation point. What?
you're saying the nerd stuff, and I was sort of going, ladies.
There you go. Joel, thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
It was
thank
good to
you.
spend time with you.
Yeah.
And friends, you can check out, Joel does host a section in the Legend Fiction community called Stories Live. Can you give us 30 seconds about how that works and what that is?
Yeah, it's sort of like a big critique group. Mary, who is a lovely person, is going back to school and can no longer run the sessions we have on the third Tuesdays of the month. I have taken those over, so I haven't actually run one yet because the third Tuesday of a month hasn't happened yet, but that is the
It's coming up soon, though.
21st.
Yeah.
I believe. Again, stay tuned to the legend fiction community. There is specifically a section for Stories Live. I will remind everyone that this is happening and to please submit whatever they want critiqued, and we'll hopefully see you then.
Yeah, what people do is they show up for about 45 minutes to an hour, and everybody submits their stories ahead of time, and then everybody basically passes their stories to the right, and you read aloud somebody else's story. I think, what is it, about 10 minutes or 1,000 words? And then everybody goes
1,000
around.
words.
Yeah. And then everybody gives feedback or chats about it. So it's an awesome way to hear how a story sounds from somebody else and get feedback from the room. So
Yeah.
You do it live. Joel,
Yes.
It was good to spend time with you.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. You.
Cheers.
All right.
And thank you, friends. We're going to wrap up our live stream for today. It's good to spend time with you. Hopefully you got some fun and helpful and interesting stuff out of this. If you've got any questions at any point, say hi in the comments. You can send me a private message at any point. You can go to legendfiction.com. Have a look at all the fantastic and wonderful stuff that we've got going on. Loads of events, all of it to help you start and finish your dream novel and do it with friends and not do it alone, and then actually get it done. And then once it's done, have other resources there to help you to keep going. So check it out, legendfiction.com. We do have a store. We have merch. You can also grab like really epic Writing Begins t-shirts and stuff like that. We've got mugs. So check that out on the store. You can start a 30-day free trial, have a look at everything we've got going. You can download all of our resources and you can run off with them. The goal is to help you keep writing, keep creating, and at some point send me a message. I'd love to know what you think about anything. See if I can be helpful, maybe even create a resource to help you keep doing what you're doing. Have an awesome rest of your day. Keep writing. May the Lord be with you. Cheers.